All right. I don't know if I really need to explain this, but so I don't know if people really understand what I mean when it comes to 4D being time. Okay, like 4 dimensions within this reality. 4 dimensions is time. But I'll explain here. So 4D is time. Okay, so here's the differences between the two types of dimensions I'm talking about. Okay, so there is conventional, right, based on or in accordance with what is generally done or believed, right? That's how dimensions in our reality works. Okay, dimensions within our reality is basically how everything is set up. Okay, so there's space, there's time, there's physicality, there's yada yada yada, right? So there's a bunch of things going on there. That's conventional dimensions. Those are conventional dimensions. So of a person, what's that? Concerned with what is generally held to be acceptable at the expense of individuality and sincerity. So what this means essentially is that when you're going to, like, it's essentially like a normal or standard. So essentially what this means is that it's basically explaining that any dimension within our conventional dimensions, right, it expenses our individuality because whatever we believe may not be the case, right? And it also shows very little sincerity about how things should work. So, like, take, for example, like different reactions come from the same chemical, okay, or same chemicals mixed together. You know what I mean? Like, think about that stuff, you know what I mean? And then that's basically what that means. So, and it's central, right? This is a central dimension, okay? This is essentially where we're sitting right now, okay? That's what the conventional is building up. So, central, like the universe, for example, forming the center, okay? Middle center, okay, of the greatest importance, principle, or essential. So it's essential, right? So this is like the grounding reality that we live, the 3 dimension, right? That you perceive, right? Or the universe in general is the grounding dimension. This universe that we're in is the grounding dimension, okay? So time, what is it? Indefinite, right? So there's no real end to it, or there's no real understanding of when it will end. Continued progress of existence, events in the past, present, and future regarded as a whole. So the past, the present, and future. This will come in understand. This will actually come in handy. I should underline this. This will come in handy later when I explain what the 4th dimension is and why it's time, right? So measure the time taken by a process, activity, or a person doing it, okay? Now, what does process and activity mean, okay? Process, actions taken to reach an end, okay? So what does that mean? So a process is essentially activity, okay? So it's actions. Actions is a form of word that goes with activity, right? Action is activity. Things happen, okay? Or happening, sorry. Busy or vigorous action or movement. Busy or vigorous action or movement. Movement is what's important here, okay? Time is movement. What is movement, okay? An act of changing physical location or position or having this changed, okay? Or of having this changed, sorry. So the main point here is changing physical location or position, okay? A change or development, movements in the underlying financial market. That's a good example, for example, because sure, if you're looking at a chart, it may not be physical to you, but it really is, because anything that is perceptual, like that you can perceive, or you can, in general, what is in front of you is essentially physical. The chart would just essentially be like, like how stock charts work, you know what I mean? That is essentially just indicating the movement of physical objects out in the world, right? So space plus movement equals time, space-time, right? Because you have movement within this time, like just imagine that these arrows, right, are inside the cube, right? All these outside arrows are also inside the cube. So you're moving around inside this cube, okay? Let's say this is space, okay? Space plus movement equals space-time, okay? Let's see here. How is time the 4D? Okay, let's take a look at the tesseract, okay? This is a square next to another square, okay? Now, the ideology behind this and the way they construct it is not proper when you're showing it in a 3-dimensional way. How it would actually look is imagine these, right, as being cubes, and you're looking at them from the front, okay? Now, these cubes would be interconnected. That's how it would actually look like. So this cube would be poking out the other end of the other cube, okay? That's essentially what it looks like. Now, this would be happening all over, right? This almost reminds me of something that happens within the 3-dimensional realm. Motion blur, okay? So motion. Oh, the car was here, now it's here, okay? Now within this 3-dimensional local environment, this car doesn't have to be here. It could be up here. You know what I mean? It could be here. It could be here. So what 4 dimensions is within our space-time, right? Or our universe, or dimension, I should say. Space-time is 4 dimension, okay? Because movement gives off the same thing here. This block right here, right? It's centered, right? Now, I'm gonna move it off center. Oh, now it's on your left, right? Almost, but now that it's on the left, it's still connected to this one here, right? But it's just moved, right? Same as if I were to move it forward. If I was to move it backwards, you know what I mean? It's still going to be centralized. It's going to be connected always to this last block, right? Doesn't matter where I move it. I can move it right on this table. It doesn't matter. It's going to be connected to this last block, no matter what, right? Whew, that's motion blur. Imagine motion blur behind all that, right? That's what that is. That's motion, movement. So let's say there's no space here. Let's just say it's like connected to the last block that's underneath here. Boom. That's how you look at it. You know what I mean? That's how it's perceived as the tesseract. The tesseract is perceived as this. If you're looking at it as a 2-dimensional entity, you know what I mean? Rather than a 3-dimensional graph, you know, for a 4-dimensional entity, or object, I should say, and they represent a 2D graph of a 4-dimensional object. Okay? Moving. Okay? 4-dimensional object. So the movement, right? Let's say that last connect block right here, right, was the one just above this one, okay? Boom. Each corner intersects with the other corner. So me moving any object within the room, it doesn't matter where I put it, it's always going to have a trail to the last location it was at within our space-time continuum. There's always going to be a trail that represents what the tesseract represents, okay? As a moving square. The square is moving. This square moved here. This car, right, moved here. And moved here, and moved here. It can move here. You know what I mean? It can move wherever the heck it wants to move. It can do a barrel roll, and it still be connected to the last position it was in. You know what I mean? If I was to flip this square to make a diamond, it doesn't matter. It just means now the square has a new trail following it. The similar trail that I've drawn right here and up here. Time is movement. Time is movement. So that makes movement, or time, the 4th dimension. Alright, so no matter where I walk, right? I could be walking right now. I stood up, I walked. But no matter what, in the past is connected to the future, right? Which is connected to the present, which is now, right? Where my hand is and right where I'm standing, right? Where I'm standing is the now, right? That past still exists. That there, me sitting on that couch, getting up even, has a past trail, right? Of events, which lead up to the present moment, which is then going to lead to the future. I'm leaving a trail of myself before, behind. Movement being time. You can think of me losing skin cells as a form of movement, which means that the fourth dimension, right, is essentially just natural everyday movement. It could be like you losing skin cells, it could be losing hair, it could be you aging, it could be like, all that stuff. So anything moving, that's the fourth dimension. So if you want to ever guess or perceive, not guess, but perceive the fourth dimension, you have to look at an object, right? It's a bit hard for a three-dimensional being to do this, but you have to look at a third-dimensional object. You have to see where it can move next, like up, down, forward, backwards, like friggin' left, right, whatever. You gotta be able to look at where the possibilities, it can go on angles, it can flip. These are all types of possibilities. Be able to perceive, right, the future, or you perceive the past, which is fourth dimension, this is time. So you gotta be able to see where it's been. You gotta estimate where it's gonna go, okay? And an estimation is how you perceive the